Windsurfing started here, in the surfer's world of the 1960s. It was a world of eternal sunrise and endless tomorrow, of dreamers risking their lives to ride the perfect wave. During the 60s, surfing had become much more than a sport. It was a way of life. The coastal waters of Southern California raged with a wave of surfing fever. And by 1965, the Beach Boys had let America know that if you catch a wave, you'll be sitting on top of the world. Only the true surfer knew this feeling well. It was the humbling experience of being lifted and carried by a force much greater than any man or machine. When in the wave's grasp, the surfer had no choice but to go with the flow of nature's incredible raw power. It was this raw power that inspired two surf-crazed aerospace engineers to take surfing into another dimension. By 1968, Hoyle Schweitzer and Jim Drake had invented the Windsurfer, a huge floating surfboard attached to a simple sail with wood booms.
I first started sailing in 1969 with Matt Schweitzer. His dad, Hoyle, taught us how to sail. And that was back when, at the time, there was only 12 boards made. It was the 12th one. It was a little miniature rig for us. And it just kind of grew. We never thought it would get as big as it did, really, back then. Because for a long time, even a few years later, there was only maybe 100 people that were doing it around our area. And then it just took off.
In the unique wind and waves of Maui, Hawaii, the sport began to change rapidly as a new breed of windsurfers challenged the island's extreme conditions. In 1976, the harness was developed by Larry Stanley and Mike Horan. Footstraps soon followed, and a transformation began.
The first progression that really went towards wave sailing was the introduction of footstraps. As soon as they brought footstraps into the sport, everything started changing a little bit. And then the board started getting shorter and shorter. And probably the biggest turnaround after all that happened was when it went to the really short board, like surfboard stage. We went from 9 foot, what's kind of like a slalom board now, to total surfboards, 7-foot surfboards. And
in November 1981, Windsurf magazine featured a high-performance breakthrough, wave riding. In his article, Mike Walt states, "When I dropped into a wave with a shortboard, it was a dream come true. I was truly feeling the surfing sensation. This is the beginning of a progression that will take windsurfing farther than anyone can imagine."
Yeah, myself personally, I've been surfing longer than I've been windsurfing. And surfing was really my main sport as far as when I was a kid and what I like to do. So it's just a natural progression to try to make windsurfing more like surfing for me.
With the innovations of Stanley, Horan, and Waltz, windsurfing had at the same time returned to its roots and taken a quantum leap forward into the realm of wave sailing. The wind and waves of Maui have been home to the sport and its pioneers ever since. Does this look like a job? Is this man working or just having fun? The answer is yes. The professional windsurfer is always working to improve and change the sport. After several years of commitment, Pete Cabrina has learned to take his fun seriously.
It's kind of a funny thing that we do here, you know, all of us making a living at what we enjoy. And it was hard for me to realize that for a while there, especially in the early days when I was 19, 20, 21, and I was traveling the world at my sponsors' expenses, and I was just going around competing for them, which is something that I wanted to do anyways. And suddenly I was having somebody back me and put a lot of money behind me and pay me quite well to do it. And I was always taking it serious, and I was taking the competition serious, but I hadn't really realized the fact that, you know, I'm making a good living, enjoying what I'm doing.
Windsurfing manufacturers depend on sailors like Pete to keep the sport alive. The development of new ideas and equipment always begins where it counts most. Today, windsurfing is a fine art, and so the sport must have its masters. The sailing of Robbie Nash speaks for itself. He has perfected the craft of windsurfing. Aggressive, yet intuitive. Subtle, yet powerful. Like any master wave sailor, Robbie is as much a part of the wave as water itself.
The wind for you is one sense of power. It's your main form of power. That's how you propel yourself in and out through the waves, but the waves is also another means of power.
You're trying to work the wave as much as you can and use the most powerful spots of the wave to propel you or to get you in the air or to turn off. The most powerful spots, you can turn the hardest and you can hit it the hardest.
You always want to sort of sail as smoothly as you can through the surf. And just take power from the wave when you want and back off from it when you want to. There's no way you can even imagine that you can make a wave do what you want it to do or make the wind do what you want it to do. You can sort of flirt with it by going out in conditions that you might feel are over your head or that most people wouldn't go out in. But you're never really trying to go against it. You never want to go against the grain.
The master wave sailor knows that he is only an extension of his wind and waves, and that harmony with these forces is the spirit of windsurfing.
I think the challenge of the sport is such that for some people you become so determined to learn how to do it that that's all you think about, or else you never do it again. It's become a part of my life because it's an obvious challenge with the elements, and you really have to study yourself internally, or I did, to reduce my fear and strengthen my body and my mind, because I never wanted to give up. So that really taught me a lot about perseverance. And because of windsurfing, I've gotten into I've become interested in sports psychology and Tai Chi, and how your mind influences your experience of life. I think probably I was determined more because I like challenges. And at the time, I was learning with a lot of other women, so I didn't really notice any difference. But when I started to ride waves, being a woman became a real influence, because I wanted to do it as well as the men. Because it's more a feeling that you get in your body than anything else. And I think the better you're doing is relative to the less you're thinking. So, but it feels really good. I think people like doing it because it makes them feel powerful. And other times it can make you feel really calm. But I think people enjoy feeling powerful. And projecting off the power of the waves even gives you more of a sensation of immortality.
young kids are changing the sport, and it's hot. Those guys are they're kind of totally fearless, and they'll try anything. And they're definitely pushing it farther than anyone has.
Wave sailing's new pioneers are Mark Angulo, U.S. number 18. Rush Randall, U.S. number 32. Dave Kalama, U.S. number 212. And Ian Boyd, U.S. number 82.
Basically, my father started sailing back in like '74, and he was really into it. And at the time, I was really young, and I used to always like hop on his board with him and tag along. And he got kind of tired of me doing that. And at the time, a standard windsurfer rig was way too much for me to pull out of the water. And he works with a lot of aluminum, so he put together a cut down rig, a real small storm sail, and threw me out on a rope and let me go back and forth until I got the hang of it and let me off the rope, and that's where it all began. Yeah, I was 8 years old at the time. Unlike, other sports like soccer, football, baseball, basketball, that kids, grow up and do in school and, maybe into college. It's totally individual. You go out and do your own thing, learn at your own pace. It's just an individual sport. What I enjoy most about it is, unlike snow skiing or riding a skateboard on a half pipe, both the wind, the waves, and you are all moving. There's not a fixed ramp. Like skateboards, they can hit the same lip every time and do a 360. Windsurfing is totally different. You got the wind, the waves, and yourself are all moving at different speeds, and that's like the freedom that just keeps it alive. Windsurfing to me is the ultimate natural rush, that you can just go out and get high every time on it. It keeps me wanting more, hungry for just the next wave and the next one.
really comes down to your mind over matter. I think that when I go out in big surf, I really don't think about not being able to make it. All I'm concerned about is making it. There's definitely a danger aspect, and I think that that's one of the things that's drawn me to the sport. It's something where you're putting yourself against all the elements that God and the people upstairs can throw down at you. You have the waves, you have the wind, and then you have just plain old rough conditions. And I think that that's where the adrenaline comes from. It comes from the large surf, the heavy winds, and the adrenaline factor that I got from that will carry through with me for the rest of my life.
I think a perfect moment's also a description of a peak performance, where you're not trying to use your muscles to do it, you're trying to work with the elements, and it becomes effortless.
Just smacking the thickest, juicy bull possible and just floating the nicest aerial down the line and then setting up for another.
The ultimate thrill in windsurfing has been changing over the years, but generally it's the same. It's just the thrill of waking up and looking outside and seeing the trees cooking over. And that's actually where it starts, you know. You're starting to get excited, your adrenaline's pumping before you even leave the house. And now the ultimate thrill for me is the new aerial maneuvers. Now we've taken it farther than it's ever gone before.
It's fun. It's just, you know, it's something you want to just do. It's so fun. You want to keep doing it.
When you are a beginner, when you start, you always think that you are fast, even if you are not fast, but it's the first sensation you have, and after you want to be faster and faster all the time.
Il faut être fou, il faut prendre énormément de risques, et c'est tout à fait ce qui me correspond.
Feeling about speed, for sure, and to fight against the time, against the wind, especially when it's very strong, and just the pure feeling of freedom.
C'est un sentiment de toujours d'aller plus loin que soi-même, d'essayer de se dépasser.
You feel great because the water is so fast under the bottom of the board, you know, and my excitement is to go faster, you know. When I reach 40 knots, I want to go faster and to know what are the sensations when I reach 45, you know. I want to discover the sensation, I want to go faster.
Many of the best speed sailors in the world have gathered in Saint-Marie-de-la-Mer, a quiet little resort town in the south of France, for La Vitesse Coupe du Monde, the World Cup of speed sailing. A new vitality was given to this highly specialized form of windsurfing when a massive ditch was carved into the sandy Mediterranean beach nearly 2 years ago. This 1,300-meter liquid drag strip is aligned to make use of the legendary Mistral. When this strong, cold wind blows off the mountains during the winter months, the Canal de Saint-Louis is the fastest piece of water in the world. Michel Rousselet initiated the construction of the canal himself and has organized every speed sailing event on this course since it opened for competition. After Eric Beale set a new world record here in November 1988, clocking 40.48 knots, nearly every top speed sailor in the world has come to Le Canal with the hopes of going even faster and rewriting the record book again. World records are a very serious business, and any new record must be overseen by a representative of the World Speed Sailing Record Council.
I am the chairman of a committee which is called the World Sailing Speed Record Committee, or Council. It is an autonomous body which gives decisions that are not open to appeal in this particular sport, and that is the part of sailing which consists in putting up record speeds. My job is to see that everything in the measurements and calculations of a claimed record are true and correct. So one has to think of all these things. You've got to identify the boat, see the sailors measured, get the course accurate and the timing accurate, etc., etc., etc. There's all sorts of other details you have to get straight.
The timing truck, with its high-tech system of measurement, is every speed sailor's main competition. Each run that is made during a day of racing is recorded on videotape at the start and finish of the official 500-meter course. Once the sailor has chosen his gust of wind and made his water start, he can gain speed over a 500-meter stretch before crossing the start line of the official course. Once the sailor has passed the start camera, his sail number is entered in a log corresponding with the picture recorded on the videotape to mark a start point for his time. The tape continues to run while the sailor races down the speedway. When he crosses the finish line, the sailor's picture is recorded again, and his average speed over 500 meters is immediately calculated from the difference between his start time and finish time on the videotape. Any of these times may be verified by watching the videotape after the racing is over. After 5 consecutive days of light wind, the Mistral finally arrives. It is gusting 30 to 40 knots and seems to be increasing in velocity. Although the wind is strong enough to begin racing in the canal, Michel Rousselet is concerned about its angle. The optimum wind direction is approximately 125 degrees clockwise of the course. The wind direction is just over 100 degrees, but steadily improving as it shifts to the racer's advantage. The anxious speed sailor's time has arrived, and La Vitesse Coup de Monde begins. Mistral kept blowing for 3 days straight, and the French speed sailors proved to be first-class competitors.
Usually we had a big difference with men's time and women's time, at minimum 5 knots. Now the difference is only 3 knots, and I hope to do better. When I've made 37.36, the wind was very gusty, and at the start line I was very fast. At the finish line also I was very fast, but at the middle of the run the wind dropped and I was a little bit slow. So that's why I think it's possible for me to make 40 knots with steady wind. I'm sure it's possible.
When Brigitte broke the world record, she took it from Babette Coquille, who has dominated women's speed sailing for several years.
Ce que je compte accomplir, déjà gagner, ça c'est une chose, mais récupérer mon record que j'ai perdu au mois de novembre 88.
Oui, ce sont des concurrentes de taille. Sur l'eau, bon, la compétition est dure parce qu'on a toutes les trois niveaux sensiblement qui, enfin, on se tient sur l'eau, mais bon, sur terre, on a de très bonnes relations et on s'entend très bien, on a les mêmes problèmes au même moment, donc on se comprend et on partage la même passion, donc ça nous rapproche.
Ce qui m'excite le plus, c'est d'aller vite et d'aller de plus en plus vite.
It's very dangerous, I think so, because when we are in condition to break the record, we are never in the harness. We are always by because it's very dangerous for the guy who is in the front. It all depends. I don't know. We haven't chosen who's going to be in the front, but it's very. If the guy in the back have no more power in the hand, he loses the sail and everything goes in the guy in the front, and it's very dangerous. What is the most exciting? I think it's the impression of speed that you get when you are very quickly. I think so. Huh? I think it's the most difficult is to start, and it's so hard when you start, and it's so easy when you sail. I think it's most exciting is the difference between the twin.
La vitesse, c'est l'aspect compétition pour moi. C'est seulement l'aspect compétition. Plus largement, la planche à voile, pour moi, c'est le quotidien. C'est-à-dire que je fabrique mon matériel. Et puis dès qu'il y a un souffle, je suis sur l'eau, parce que mon fourgon est prêt pour ça. Le matériel est à l'intérieur tout au long de l'année. Donc la planche à voile, pour moi, c'est tout d'abord une passion. Bon, je vous le disais tout à l'heure, c'est devenu une profession. La vitesse, c'est l'aspect compétition, l'aspect professionnel. Mais il y a tout l'aspect fun à côté, qui est très très large.
Most people prefer the going fast. I mean, average people, especially in Europe. So that brings a lot out of for the normal surfers too, because you think about fast boards, fast sails, and that's nearly everything what the people want. I think it's 30% sail, 30% board, and 30% the sailor. I mean, the only reason to start is to break any record, for sure. But you give your best, and then you will see what's coming up.
La chance, bon, c'est plutôt s'il y a un vent irrégulier de prendre une bonne risée que les autres n'ont peut-être pas eu cette chance-là. Mais sinon, bon, le matériel, l'expérience, le réglage, tout ça fait qu'on peut battre le record du monde ou non. Mais la chance peut tenir que sur la force du vent que les autres n'ont pas. Sinon, c'est pas beaucoup, c'est pas la chance qui fait aller vite, quoi.
In south of France is very gusty, so you have to try to get the gust at the right moment and to start at the right moment and to get the wind all the way through on the 500-meter course, because it's a very long course. And I think if you can have the best gust, you can improve your times and you can go very fast. Right now I'm not the best because I've been beaten last year, but I would say I just want to break the world record. I want to reach 43 knots because we have very good designs. We are developed in California with Jeff Magnan from Gas Airs, and we expect to go 43 and 44 knots. So I would like to improve my times and just to prove to the public we did a very good job and we have very good sails. So we just are waiting for the conditions.
No one knows who will make the next world record or how fast it will be. But one thing is for sure, there is no better place than the canal at Saint-Marie-de-la-Mer. The Columbia River Gorge, windsurfing's new frontier, the home of nuclear wind and boardheads.
I'm a boardhead. admitting you're a boardhead is like admitting you're an alcoholic. You have to realize the problem first, you see. A boardhead is someone who thinks about windsurfing 24 hours a day. It's an addicting sport, and whether you're working or eating or sleeping, it's enjoyable to think about what it feels like when you're out there sailing. My favorite experience in windsurfing is sailing in a lot of wind, or nuclear wind, or liquid spray. That's when it's blowing so hard that everything's going sideways. And the enjoyment I get out of it is just dealing with the magnitude of forces that are around you. You're such a small part of Mother Nature. She can slap you down at any time and you don't have anything to do about it. What I get a kick out of is dealing with those magnitudes of forces, and it's a little different than, let's say, just 20 knots. It's some serious power.
Have long been drawn to the gorge for its unique natural beauty, among other things. Indians have caught salmon from the river for thousands of years. The early American pioneers trapped animals for the fur trade and settled farms. And today, the gorge is a windsurfing mecca, the high wind capital of the world. Doug Campbell has been here since the first windsurfers sailed these waters some 8 years ago. Although he has probably sailed the gorge longer than anyone, Doug's enthusiasm for the sport is stronger than ever.
When I started sailing here was in about 1981,
I don't think at the time any of us really had any idea what it was going to become, although after another year or two it started to become fairly obvious. The crowd was increasing so much in such a short time that we could see it was going to get pretty big. Spirit to it. In the summertime, it's everybody's just here to sail. It's like their whole experience in the gorge is nothing but sailing. That's all they talk, and in the evenings they go watch the videos at Pietro's, and they're just here to experience windsurfing. But it's warm weather. We have our best sailing during the best weather of the year. And it's just a really easy place to learn this kind of sailing. Hood River used to be a pretty boring place in the summer. There was just nothing to do. If you wanted to have any fun in the summer, you went somewhere else, because here it was just too windy to do anything, and it was just a ghost town. And of course now in the summertime everybody comes to Hood River instead of leaving it, so it's just totally transformed it. Well, it's getting crowded. There's definitely big crowds at the major spots, but I still maintain that it never gets too bad. You can always sail upstream or downstream of the crowds. You can always find less crowded sailing. So there's still room for a lot of people. I think there's still new places that hardly anybody has ever sailed. Looking for better wind, bigger waves. I think there's still new spots that you either have to drive further for, or you have to maybe go through a little bit longer walk to get down to the river, or a little more difficult launch sites. 3 Mile Canyon has just excellent waves, and when it's windy, the wind is really good out there. It's warm, but it's a long drive. It's an hour and a half from Hood River. Knots is maybe a little excessive, but 30 to 40 knots is great. If it's really filled in when you can be on a 3-2 and the waves are big, there's nothing like it. I like doing that, especially that's when we do that. Usually get together with a group of friends who are some of the old-time sailors, and it sort of feels like it was back in the early days. Just you and a little group of friends that are out sailing at your own private little spot.
90 miles east of Hood River, 3 Mile Canyon has classic gorge conditions. A steady 30 knots of wind that will blow strong until dusk. Doug is joined by friends John Gay, Jerry Percival, Mark Mason, Chris Anderson, and Rod Parmenter.
I feel lucky to be one of the people that were on Maui when it was in its infant stage, and it wasn't crowded, and it was a different scene than it is now over there. In 1983, I was coming back from Maui for a visit to Seattle, where I'm from, and I flew back with Matt Connolly. He was telling me all about the gorge, and I had this envision of rapids and all this other stuff that, well, it's not quite like that. Windsurfing here is definitely different than any wave sailing. There's nothing that replaces wave sailing. But high wind sailing is definitely fun too. When it's blowing 35 to 40 miles an hour and you're using a small sail you can get your hands on, that's challenging too. You've got airtime, and that's what I'm really enjoy now. After being, an accomplished sailor over on Maui, I could see that this place was just waiting to be discovered. It's the first day I sailed here, I knew that, oh geez, I want to get involved down here in a business way.
Well, when I came on the scene, that was in '84, Brian had already started Wind Dance. He had thought of he had been designing boards and living on Maui, and he had started the little shop here. And they were making boards in the back here and repairing others. And when I came along, I just offered to put some of the bookwork and stuff together, and he was, of course, into the idea, and all he had was a stack of receipts on a nail. He said, "That's my bookwork." And so that was where I started, and that's how I came in on it.
Out of a love for windsurfing, Brian and Lorraine have created Wind Dance sailboards. They are helping to shape a growing community and culture in the gorge.
I really enjoy sailing, but it isn't quite like it was when I was in the when I was developing my windsurfing skills. It was I just couldn't get enough of it. If the wind was blowing, I couldn't concentrate, and I'd have to be out there sailing. Whereas now, I've kind of got that out of my system a little bit. I definitely enjoy sailing, but it's not like I can't concentrate when the wind's blowing. I can concentrate now.
just remember that in around 1981, I picked up a magazine. I saw pictures of women, especially Debbie Brown, really encouraged me. I saw her out on the waves. I saw her, you know, living a great life, and I thought, wow, I want to do that. You've seen the windiest day, and then you see the next day will be a little windier. You know, it's not every single day, but the mystery of this wind that just pumps through the gorge with incredible velocity. It's amazing, yeah. So now I'm stuck here for good, I think.
After the summer's over and the crowds are gone, only the hardcore gorge sailors stick around. In the early winter, the wind direction shifts from westerly flow to the wicked easterlies. The easterly wind is relentless and extremely cold. On December 3rd, 1988, at Rooster Rock Park, the temperature was 38 degrees and the wind speed was averaging 60 knots.
What did you come to the gorge for? What were you looking for here?
Wind. Wind, as much as I could find.
How were you thinking it would affect your windsurf or your sailing?
I would get more time on the water, more opportunity, more high-powered sailing, which is what I was really into doing. Nothing else interests me. The high wind is totally where it's at. There's nothing else as far as I'm concerned. If I'm not on the verge of getting nuked every minute I'm on the water, I'm not interested in going out.
What did you think when you first stepped out of the car at Rooster Rock yesterday?
Oof. Well, I told you on the way down there I was praying that it wasn't going to be blowing enough to sail. I didn't feel like going out. It was too cold. And you saw what happened. I got flattened against the car standing there. Well, I knew I was going to sail it. I didn't know for how long. I hadn't sailed for about a month, and I knew I wasn't going to last very long, and it was pretty cold. I would have been a lot more enthusiastic if I would have had one of my buddies there with me. I thought, oh man, why isn't somebody else here? Where's Doherty? Where's Peterson? I'd say it's a good 20 knots, 15 to 20 knots more than anything I've ever sailed in. It was a lot of wind. It's more than I'm used to. I knew what I was looking at. And I wasn't a babe in the woods. I knew what I was going to be up against. I could tell right away that it was just a hair more than I was used to.
The attraction to go out? Is the most extreme conditions the most exciting?
Oh, no question about it. It gets to the point where it's almost ridiculous. When it's blowing that hard, it's just a matter of, I mean, if you can make a jibe, it's a miracle, basically. But sometimes you can get incredible air. The lift from that velocity of wind is incredible. Your hang time and you just keep going. Once you get off a wave, it just takes off and you're floating and you're being propelled further into the air by the force of the wind. But it was a bit extreme to really sail in control. It's not controllable sailing.
Is it major adrenaline sailing?
It's almost incredible. I had adrenaline coursing through my veins just thinking about it the rest of the day. Yeah, and all the way down there, the same thing. It was adrenaline big time.
Yeah, that anticipation was, you're just thinking about how strong it is.
Oh yeah, it's more of an adrenaline rush than before a race even. I mean, that's why you're in it anyway. That's why you have to do the sports, for the adrenaline. And racing and those kind of windy conditions are what get it pumping. You couldn't stay to weather yesterday. The wind was blowing so hard and the current was going with the wind and the water level in the river was so high, we're probably looking at about a 3 or 4 knot current with the wind. So it was virtually impossible to stay to weather, which that was the worst part of it. If you could have stayed to weather, it would have been much more enjoyable.
What could go wrong out there in those kinds of conditions? What could happen?
Well, the worst thing would be when it's that cold, and especially when there's that much wind, is if you got separated from your rig and there's no one out there with you, your rig would just go end over end all the way to Portland. I mean, it wouldn't stop for 20 miles. If the wind caught it the right way, it would never stop.
An optimism that is shared by all the sailors who have made the gorge a place of new ideas. One of these people is world-class sail designer Bruce Peterson.
It's a hobby, it's a job, a career, incredible business opportunities now. It's a life, it's a lifestyle, it's all of those things. Well, the sailing's really important. I mean, it's part of the job. It's almost to the point where I really enjoy going sailing, and it's part of my life. But every time I go sailing, I'm always analyzing or evaluating something. So the feedback it's direct. It's not as if I'm relying on somebody else's feedback on the sail. As I can go out, I can test it myself, I can push it to the limit. So the feedback is really direct. You can make the sails more efficient, lighter, stronger, new materials. Somebody's going to come through and bust it open, with a totally different idea. I'd like to be that person,
Somewhere between wave sailing and speed sailing, gorge sailing has emerged as its own unique style of windsurfing.
Gorge sailing it really fits with the way I like to sail. I like to sail fast and do big power moves. I wasn't so much into the tricks. And the gorge is really windy, and I always craved the strongest wind, so it was perfect. Who knows what I'd be doing now, but I sure wouldn't be having as much fun as I'm having now. Big air has got to be the most thrilling moment. When it's a really big day, 30 to 40 knots, and the swells start to kick up, and flying in the air. Well, it is a wing. I mean, that's what a sailboard rig is, and the sails are becoming more and more efficient and more stable in the air. So the hang time is only going to increase.
So if you imagine flight through the eyes of a seagull, every move you make is felt by your body, and you're actually one with the wind. That's what I dream of doing, is becoming one with the wind, being able to blend with the wind.
For the last 5 years, Tom Magruder has struggled as an inventor, athlete, and entrepreneur. He started from scratch and with no formal training in aerodynamics or engineering. Tom created the wind weapon. Tom and his brother Jim moved their business to the Gorge, where they have worked to refine their craft. With an endless supply of fuel at hand, Tom and Jim have reached for the sky with the wind weapon and made a dream of wind-powered flight a reality.
opportunity to actually develop the sport as I was learning to do it. So it was pretty much the ultimate physical challenge I could ask for. It's given me a chance to follow a dream, to do something that no one's ever done before, to prove that an impossible dream is possible.
Although he has earned his wings as the chief test pilot of the wind weapon, Tom remains humbled by the flight of a seabird.
I seek a form of true flight, and I think a seagull or a seabird best represents true flight. And if you watch your seagull come down and land on the water and then flap his wings to get back up into the air again, you come real close to producing that in a human form. Well, the greatest achievement I think that we've accomplished with the wind weapon is that we've learned to actually soar on wind power alone. Everything that man has learned to fly in or with tends to separate him from the natural elements. And because of that, you don't really get the feel of flying. Involved in the sport of windsurfing for several years, and when I was up in school in the mountains of North Carolina, I got interested in hang gliding. And as I took up the sport of hang gliding, the fellow I was learning from, Robert Kroll, also took up the sport of windsurfing. So basically we swapped sports. The windsurfer is a very high energy, adrenaline flowing sport. You're zipping across the water and you're very close to the medium that you're riding in, and even when you're not going that fast, it just feels really fast, much faster than any other form of sailing that I've ever done. After I got to a point where I could go fast across the water, I learned how to jump the waves and get up into the air. And I really loved the feeling of getting free of that water for a while, but I didn't like coming back down so quick. And that really gave me an urge to try to extend my air time and stay longer in the air. As you launch in a hang glider, as you're running off the mountain, everything's very fast and exciting, and there's a lot of adrenaline right at first. But then in a hang glider, as you get up into the air and you get away from land, you lose your ground reference, and everything slows down. And it's a real mellow, peaceful sport. And you can get a lot of excitement as you learn how to ride in thermal air currents and use the ridge lift to stay up longer. But for the most part, the exciting part of hang gliding to me was close to the ground, where it was most dangerous during launching and landing. That really scared me away from hang gliding. I wanted to be able to experience the fun and yet not have to worry about paying for it with my life. So as we both got together and each learned the opposite sports, we realized that the aerodynamics were pretty much the same. And with Robert's swing knowledge and my sailing knowledge, we had everything we needed to make a windsurfer that would fly. But with the wind weapon, anyone can experience the freedom of flying without having to worry about the fear of dying. And that makes it very attractive, you know. The water is such a forgiving, wonderful thing. You can crash in it all day long and come home with a bruise or two and go out the next day and do it again. True flight is definitely possible by man. I don't think that God puts dreams into people's minds that aren't possibly able to be fulfilled. The wind weapon will bring flight down closer to the surface, within the grasp of the average person, where they can go out in their favorite body of water and get up in the air and feel what it's like to be free.
Listen carefully, and you might hear it in the wind. Look closely, and you might see it in a wave. But you will never know raw power until you have captured a moment of its energy and made it your own.
Cold and lonely, oh, it's blowing your way. Thunder roars, the clouds are reeling, thousand shades of gray. And it falls, you see it all that you see. Comes from nowhere, can't be explained. No one can buy the wind and the rain. Whistling wind, the stars are shooting, night is falling somewhere. Give me a door, I feel like walking, putting the wind in my hair. As it falls, the thunder calls its own name. Can't be controlled, can't be contained.